Thank you for tuning in and welcome back to Real Estate Facts. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about contingent versus pending listings, and we're going to explain them. Eric Ruthenberg, thank you so much for commenting on one of the videos and asking me to make this video. I'm happy to be making this video for you today and everyone else that's watching. If you have an idea for a video, please let me know. I always love to hear your suggestions about what you'd like to see next. So my name is Andrew Finney, your real estate geek. If you need help finding a top agent where you live, or if you simply want to drop me a line to say hello, my contact info is below. If you haven't already done so, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel now and like this video. Thank you. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to Eric Ruthenberg's point about what is a contingent versus pending listing. So if you're out there home shopping, I'm sure you've seen it. It's like the bane of your existence sometimes. You see that house that you just fall in love with from the pictures. You call a real estate agent up and you're like, is it available? And they're like, oh, I'm sorry, it's in contingent status. There's maybe 5 other properties like it on the market right now. You're like, oh. Or maybe they tell you it's in pending and then it's the same song and dance and it's, oh, I get it. It's frustrating, right? So what the heck are these things? So a contingent property, a contingent listing means that the seller has accepted an offer from a buyer and they're working through the closing process together. So there are, about 7 common contingencies that I'll review right now for you so you kind of get an idea of what these contingencies look like. The first one is a financial contingency. Obviously, the buyer has to be make good on the loan, and the loan officer has to make good on closing that loan. Otherwise, it could fall through. So there's a financial contingency in place that protects people, specifically the buyer in that case. The second common contingency is like an appraisal contingency. If an appraisal comes in less than the agreed upon sales price for that property, then it gives a buyer an opportunity to opt out if the seller won't reduce the price or if they can't come to terms. The third one is like a home inspection contingency. Let's say the home inspection reveals like a lot of problems and some of them are bigger. Then you would like that you have the ability to repair or the seller can't repair. Then that could cause a problem. Most commonly in home inspections, you're going to do a repair request and sellers are going to do their best to fulfill that request, or they're going to give you some type of compensation in lieu of the repairs, or simply you're going to opt out, right? So the fourth thing is a title contingency. Let's say that whenever everything was going through the closing process, one of the first things that a title officer is going to do is pull what's called a preliminary title report. They're going to be verifying the ownership of that property. If there's an issue with that, there's conflicting ownership statuses, then that could present an issue where that needs to be resolved. But if it's one of those situations that may not be resolved for a period of time that was longer than you're willing to wait, then you can opt out. Another contingency, right? Now the fifth and sixth ones are pretty common, are going to become more and more common as we move forward into the future of real estate. Now the fifth one, we're talking about a contingent upon sale of an existing home. What that means is that a person making an offer owns a home right now and they're writing the offer contingent upon selling their current home because they need the money from that sale to be able to buy the new home they're making the offer on. So with that contingency in place, to play it out successfully, what you want to do is you actually want to have the home that you're selling in escrow preferably, so that when you write the offer, then you can show the seller that, hey, yeah, we're actually working through the closing process and I'll be able to close on your home with a reasonable degree of certainty around this time. That gives peace of mind and confidence to the person selling the home, and that would cause them to be more likely to accept your offer if they had those questions addressed. The same as you, when you're selling your property, if someone had written an offer that was contingent upon the sale of an existing home, you'd want to have peace of mind too moving forward, right? Anyways, it's a contingency, just in case something blows up, that you'd be able to back out of a contract if you can't make good on it, unfortunately. So the sixth one is actually the seller of the property that you wish to buy is selling the home contingent upon buying their new home, which means that they want to make sure they have a place to go before they leave and close on their current home. So that's something that you're going to see a lot of out there too, and it's another contingency in the case that they just can't find what they're looking for, then they can go ahead and cancel and keep the home that they have now. The seventh common contingency is a subject to inspection contingency. Now you see this a lot in 2 different cases. Number one, when people live out of state, they're writing what's called sight unseen offers. And it's always my advice as a trusted real estate advisor that if you're going to write offers that on property that you have not seen before, then write in a term subject to inspection that gives you 3 to 5 days to get up from wherever state you are to wherever you're buying to go view that home in person. And if everything checks out, cool, gravy. Everybody can move forward with peace of mind and comfort through the closing process. But if for some reason it doesn't match what your expectations were, then you can pull out of the contract without any harm or foul going on, okay? Something to think about there. So now a pending property, going back to what is a pending, to Eric's question. A pending is whenever a seller accepts an offer from a buyer and they're moving forward in the closing process. Well, what makes it different than contingency? Because they both started off the same in the definition, right? Well, the pending listing means that all the contingencies have already been exhausted. It means that everything has been passed, everything has been acceptable, or they've been waived out to that point in the closing process. So the property, the sale becomes imminent, right? So all the contingencies are gone. It's moving forward to closing. So normally when you see contingent or pending, that's what that means. In both cases, they're the same in the sense that you have a seller that has accepted an offer from a buyer and they're working through in the closing process. So does that mean that you as a buyer can go out and see and view a property that's in contingent and pending status? It's highly, highly unlikely. As a practice and as a trusted real estate advisor, if a property is in contingent or pending status, I won't show the property to any prospective buyer, because how would you feel if you were the buyer that was moving forward and trying to set your home inspections and set your appraisal inspections and set all your due diligence that you're working through, and you still got buyers trying to come in the house? It would be impeding the process of that closing process and causing them difficulties in being able to close on that property. That's not cool. So can you write an offer on these properties? Yes, you can write an offer on these properties as backup. Does that mean the seller has to respond to your offer right away? No, hence a backup offer. Does that mean that your offer will get accepted even if you offer more money than the first buyer did on the property? No, the seller has an agreement to move forward with that buyer unless something happens and they decide to part ways, at which time your backup offer would come into priority position. You should not get your hopes up on any property that you see in a contingent or pending status. If you do, then you can set yourself up for failure. It's not that you might not want to throw out a backup offer after you talk to your trusted real estate advisors, see how far along they are and what contingencies have been met or not met yet in the closing process. And if they're early on in the process, or if it looks like they're hitting a snag in the negotiations or the closing process, see if your trusted real estate advisor can figure out what's going on, relay that information to you, and if that's the case, then go ahead, make an offer on it as a backup. Who knows? Maybe it could become your new home if it falls out. It is important to note that contingent and pending listings do fall out of escrow about roughly a third of the time. So the odds of success on that are about 67% whenever a property goes in the escrow that it's going to close, but there's that additional 33% of the time that it could fall out. So I hope that helps answer your question, Eric Ruthenberg, and also anyone else's question that has been wondering what is a contingent versus pending listing. Tell me what you're thinking about this video in the comment section below and what you took from and what was most valuable to you from this episode. Was it actually just knowing the difference between contingent versus pending? Or was it knowing that there were 7 common contingencies underneath a contingent listing? And perhaps one of the shockers being contingent upon buying a new home from the seller themselves, or the how to write a sight unseen or subject to inspection offer. Tell us about it in the comment section below. Now, if you haven't already done so, I'm going to ask you to do 3 things. Number 1, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel now. Please like this video and share this video around with someone you know is going to be able to help. Now, lastly, I'm going to go ahead and put up my contact information. If you want to reach out to me, drop me a line to say hello. Love to hear from you. If you need help finding a top agent where you live, please let me know. I'm always here to help. Now, team, thank you so much for watching this video today. In between now and next time, I'm wishing you and yours a lifetime full of love, wealth, abundance, and happiness. Enjoy an amazing day.